Hello there, Jets fans. Welcome to the JetStream post-game for Game 4. The final JetStream post-game of this year.
Yeah.
The Jets lose to the Anaheim Ducks tonight, 5-2, getting swept in their first-round series against, again, the Anaheim Ducks. That's all she wrote.
Yeah, it's over.
Didn't beat the Ducks all year.
Franchise still doesn't have a playoff win.
No franchise playoff wins yet. But you know what? It was nice to have the playoffs back in Winnipeg.
Like I was saying all season, you just got to get there.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you
Could
win.
you consider this a successful season even though they got swept?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
The
I
goal
think
was
that's
to make
all it was.
They were a
playoffs,
fringe
right?
team. They've been a fringe team for 2 years. Well, in the Central anyways. Fringe team for 2 years, and the goal is just to make it. And I mean, obviously, once you make it, you want to try and make a run. Every team does.
Yeah.
But the reality is somebody's got to go out in the first round, and if you're the bottom seed, it's most likely going to be you.
Yeah, I think a lot of us really underestimated how good the Ducks really were.
Not me.
Yeah, not you. You did pick them.
I am honestly, again, not to toot my own horn, but I was actually amazed, and that's part of the reason why I chose them, is I couldn't believe how many people were writing them off. Before we did our postseason predictions, I was just looking around, browsing Twitter, and looking at people's, everybody had their brackets together, and everybody had Winnipeg, and I was like, I couldn't, and very rarely do I agree with what they say on 1290, but one of the guys on like the Rona Roundtable or something said something like, something around the lines of, you don't just win a division by accident, whether it's a bad division or a good division. You have to be a good team to win a division, or a conference for that matter.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe how many people were just writing the Ducks off. And I mean, a lot of people who picked the Jets over the Ducks still were saying, they match up well, but it could go. That's what you were saying. But it could go to the Jets. You give the edge to them. But I was amazed. I'm just like, there's no way.
Yeah, it was one of those situations where I think the Jets let a lot of their inexperience get to them. To sum it up in a quick little thing here, and this isn't obviously the whole story, but the first 2 games, the Jets came in, they weren't playing their hockey. They were doing way too much to try to hit them and just try to do whatever they thought a playoff game should be played like, because they don't have any experience in it. The Ducks knew exactly what they were doing coming into it. Ryan Kessler was being a dick, and he was great throughout this series. Corey Perry was scoring goals like Corey Perry can. Ryan Getzlaf was pretty quiet throughout the series, but still a factor, and Jakob Silfverberg was all over the place, and their goaltending was solid. And by the time the Jets came back to Winnipeg and started playing their kind of hockey, Pavlik became who he usually is. 5 goals in Game 3 and four, and then an empty netter in Game 4. And I'm not going to pin it all on him, but he started becoming more of who he actually was. And I'm pretty sure his save percentage is going to be below 900 in the series. And
it is well below. And
the Jets just couldn't get that save. And that's been the knock against him forever. It hasn't been that he can't make saves. It's that he doesn't make the save ever. Or he's unbeatable. It's one of the two. And usually it's he can't make the big save. But yeah, it's still a learning experience for the Jets, right? And it's something that they can build off of. And the guys have at least seen it. Nick Ehlers was in the building today, so he saw what it's going to be like here.
It was just so happened to work out really nicely. If people don't know that Ehlers' postseason with the Mooseheads actually ended, I think it was yesterday.
2 days in a row we got to see season's end.
Yeah, you got to see season end twice in 2 days, but his season ended, and then immediately the Jets said, hey, come on down, and we want to get you a feel of what it's like in Winnipeg on game day. Paul Maurice came out and said, this is a guy that we see being part of our future for a while, and we want him to get acclimated to this environment. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was a good call. It's going to be interesting. So there's going to be a lot of stories told after this season. I'm sure you're going to find out that Little's probably playing hurt. Ladd's definitely playing hurt. Perot's playing through something. Yeah. And all that story is going to be, these are injuries guys won't play through. Well, Evander Kane did play through all those injuries too, so let's settle that down. There's going to be a lot of story. People are hating on Toby Enstrom for some ridiculous reason. People are hating on Bufflin for penalties. Again, it's that whole, the Jets, Winnipeg fans aren't used to being in the playoffs. They don't understand the micro explosion that every story is when it really doesn't need to be. And like we've said before, and like we're going to talk, like you guys are going to talk about on Sunday, probably.
Tell me what I got to talk about.
Yeah, when I'm not here, is going to be a lot of there's a lot of decisions that need to be made with the Jets right now, and they can go one of 2 directions. They can either go and build off of this and take that first step into becoming a great franchise, or they can make a bunch of dumb decisions in Toronto Maple Leaf the entire thing and go the other direction. So this is a huge offseason, and Chevy's going to make put his mark on this team going forward for what he does this offseason.
Yeah.
So a lot of UFAs, a lot of RFAs. The goaltending decisions are going to be huge. There's a lot of things decisions that have to be made. For Jets fans, though, there's one thing I think they can look forward to, and that's going to be watching the Jack Adams nominations.
Yep.
Paul Maurice has obviously made a big adjustments for this team. Speaking of which, in today's game alone, he did shuffle the lines finally. They started playing. Their lines looked more like Stafford, Ladd, Little, Slutsky, Lowry, Frolik, Perot, Scheifele, and Wheels, which I thought was going to be a solid line. Stepniak, Slater, and Thorburn. He then shuffled up the defensive pairings, which I think say a lot. I'm going to read off some possession stats in a second here. But they stuck with Enstrom and Myers, went with Trouba and Sherratt, and Bufflin and Stewart.
Okay.
Now, we all know Bufflin's solid defenseman, way better defensively than he is as a forward. Again, I don't know why anyone ever was asking for him to be a forward. It's a stupid opinion to have. Sorry, it's dumb. Possession statistics, by the end of the game, the top line, Ladd, Little, Stafford, wasn't great. I think a lot of that was because in that third period they did get hemmed in a lot. I think they were doing pretty well going into the third and just kind of got overrun by the end of the game. Second line with Perot, Scheifele, and Wheeler, 42% offensive zone starts. All of them are huge positives in the possession metrics.
That's
so,
good. Yep.
Again, people don't want to hear it, but Stafford was not a very good player in Buffalo for a long period of time. So I'm afraid of giving him a lot of money.
Yep. I was obviously excited about his goal scoring streak and everything that he put together in the regular season, but as the playoffs were approaching and he kept scoring and scoring, I was like, man, every goal he scores is like an extra $500,000 he's going to want on his contract next year.
Yep. He's going to ask for a lot of money.
He's going to ask for a bunch of money because he didn't have a small contract in Buffalo.
$4 million a year?
Yeah, and that's a lot for
what he is.
Him. And I mean,
he's only getting older.
It was nice that Buffalo retained some of that salary, and I think I said it a few times that I wouldn't have been so crazy about acquiring him if they took all of it.
Yeah.
So if he's going to want more or the same as he's getting, it's questionable.
Yeah, I think you can still look at that Evander. It's going to suck when Evander Kane is a solid player playing with Jack Eichel. But I think you can look at that trade in a couple of years and say, okay, you know what, we got a couple good prospects and possibly Tyler Myers out of it. So I think those are the big pieces in this. I honestly, I'd be kind of surprised if the Jets spent a lot of money on Stafford, and I don't think he's going to be back.
Yeah.
But yeah, Toulouse, Lowry, and Frolik, all positive in the metrics. Obviously, Lowry had an amazing series. I think we saw what he is going to be in this series. He's my next jersey, I think, personally, whenever the Jets' third comes out. And then the fourth line was all negatives, but they weren't as bad as I was expecting them to be throughout the series.
They've been fairly weak without somebody else. Like the Slater and Thorburn need to be pulled up by somebody.
Yeah.
So whenever Toulouse was there, they would tend to do a little bit better, and then it would move in Halschuk. Halschuk is not such a bad player that he'll drag people down, but he's not good enough to pull guys up.
Yeah.
So it's... whenever he was there, I
don't think Slater's going to be back next year.
You don't
hopefully.
think?
I think. Well, they've got enough, right? They've got a ton. Andrew Kopp's going to be around. Nick Batan's going to be fighting for a spot. I think they can let that fourth line start to turn into a Kids and Thorburn line.
And Paul Maurice straight up said he made some actually pretty interesting comments about how face-offs are not as important as a lot of people seem to think they are.
Good. Remember that and talk about that on the weekend with Trevor when he's here, because I want you guys
Trevor's
to talk
a face-off guy, isn't he?
I don't think so.
Is he or is he not? Okay, well then maybe we'll agree on something.
Anyways, defensemen. Enstrom and Myers, as per usual, way high, best defenseman possession-wise, 50-50 offensive zone starts. This is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Trouba's had a pretty rough possession series, and a lot of that we've been saying Stewart. Trouba and Sherratt were paired up today.
Okay.
They had, on average, about a 30% offensive zone start. Both of them are positive possession players.
So they got really bad zone starts.
They played the toughest minutes of the defensive pairings.
Yeah.
Two kids.
Yeah.
Toughest minutes of defensive pairings. Positive.
Two playoff rookies.
Positive possession guys.
Yep.
Everyone's favorite player in the world, Mark Stewart, and everyone's most hated player, Dustin Byfuglien. Offensive zone starts, both over 60%.
Wow.
Probably an average of about 67 between.
You know what, that makes
64
sense
for Stewart, 69 for Buff.
That makes sense because Mark Stewart scored a goal. He also had multiple opportunities and shots on net. So I was kind of looking at that and being like, wow, this is kind of crazy. But it makes sense with those zone starts that he would be getting that many opportunities.
Both of them are negative possession players.
Yikes.
So that, Stewart drags guys down. He does. And he's I guarantee you he's going to get a lot of props in the media because he was hitting a lot of people. And if you watched him in front of the net, in the first period alone, he broke 2 sticks in front of his own net cross-checking people.
Good.
So it's not stuff I enjoy watching, and he's a risk to the team. So I hope he gets phased out eventually. It's, again, no offense to Mark Stewart. He does what he does, and he does it well. He does his job well, sort of. He knows he's out there to hit people, and he does it.
Yeah.
It's
he
just not
does
a successful way to play hockey. Yeah.
He does block shots. Nobody's taking that away from him. It's just if you're blocking more shots than you're taking, there's probably a problem.
Yeah. So I think the Jets have a lot of room to grow. I think this offseason's a big thing for them, but I think they took some positive steps this year.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So everyone expects them to be at the bottom of the division, and they weren't. So
yeah, true that.
They were far from it.
I mean, anytime you're not at the bottom of the Central Division, like there's no weak teams in the Central.
No,
so if you can beat out any of those guys, I mean, it's great. Even if you're the worst team in the Central, you're probably better than a lot of teams in the league.
Of course. So yeah, I don't think Jets fans should be. I mean, I was happy that people were cheering for the Jets at the end of the game.
Yeah. I think there is an appreciation, like as much as everybody wants to get a win and wants them to go deep and everything. I think there's a serious appreciation for the fact that
they're
just here. Yeah, that the Jets were in the playoffs and we got to witness it. That I think that almost everybody appreciates that.
Yep. It was nice to kind of see the Whiteout come back too, and it stayed strong for 2 games straight. They were loud throughout the game. Last few minutes they were cheering consistently.
Every media outlet, whether it be professional or amateur, TV, radio, news, whatever, it's all anybody's talking about in the NHL is the Jets fans in the MTS Center. So.
And it's nice to kind of have. It used to always be Montreal fans, but I think people are seeing that it's Winnipeg fans.
Yeah.
They are I don't think there's any way to dispute that it is the loudest arena in the NHL.
Yeah.
Period. Down Goes Brown actually wrote a great article about it after the first home game, and it kind of starts off with that tone, and he was talking about how you always hear that stupid cliche, this is the loudest building in the NHL sort of thing, and he admits that he came into Winnipeg being very pessimistic about it. Like, he was optimistic, but he came in with a, prove it to me.
Yeah.
I want to see if this is actually true. And then he said by the time, before the game even started, he said in pregame warm-ups, it was done.
Yeah.
He a legit line from the article was, "Chill out, Jets fans. Some of us want to hear our kids laugh again." So yeah, it's good props, and it's a great thing to see. And the Jets, I think True North and Jets handled it perfectly.
Yeah.
And it's something I want to be a part of in the future, and I think
sure.
it's good motivation for fans to kind of have that expectation now. And the Jets better expect it, that this is now where the bar is set. We want playoff hockey. We want a reason to watch playoff hockey, and I think people are going to stop accepting just, we were close.
Yeah.
And as much as it sucks getting swept and you're not getting a great draft pick this year, I'll take that trade-off.
If you go from a fringe team to making it, you've changed your you've bumped yourself into a new bracket.
Change your expectations.
You've got to make it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just get knocked out again the next year because there's going to be questions.
Yep. And you know what? The Dallas Stars are a consistent goaltender away from being back in that race.
Yep.
The Minnesota Wild, who really shouldn't be getting all this, what an amazing turnaround credit. They fixed the one spot they needed and are now a great team.
They've been a solid team for years, and they just couldn't find a goalie to stop pucks.
Yep. You know the LA Kings are going to come back strong. You know the Flames might drop off a little bit. Other than that, it's a tough run, and the Jets are expected now to be hanging with the big boys, and they can't stop. They need to make sure that next year they come in strong. They need to make sure they sign the guys they need to sign. They cannot sit back and think that Pavlik is the answer to everything because of this year. I hope he is. I hope this is an indication of who he's going to be for the next 5 years, but I'm doubtful, and I think I'm right to be doubtful. But yeah, that'll about wrap things up for us here today. And I guess for the post-game playoff episodes, they've been fun to do, even though they've kept us up pretty late.
Yep.
On Sunday, like we've talked about a couple times, I'm not going to be around. I think I'm going to try to Skype in for the episode, but our boy Trevor Mon, he's going to be here with Joe and Neil on Sunday, talk a little Washington Capitals, who are in a big series with the New York Islanders, and that series has been awesome. Talk a little bit about the Jets, talk a little bit about what they expect for next year, and a bit more of what you've heard today. And maybe apparently some face-off talk.
Yeah, maybe we'll go down that road. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, stay tuned for when that episode's going to be coming up. It's at JetStream Pod on Twitter, #JetStream. Check out ArcticIceHockey.com for all the links and everything else you're going to find. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in for these playoff post-game reports and for listening to us all the time. And yeah, look forward to the offseason. Hopefully things go well. You'll hear from us soon. Go Jets, go.